to speak to the short course one more time. I can't count how many presentations I've done here. But I like this one. This scheduling is near and dear to me. I've been doing it for a long time, and the topic is scheduling tools, but I'm going to kind of open it up a little bit because there are some subjects I'd kind of like to talk about. There's three parts to the talk. The first part, I want to talk about the last 25 years of construction and scheduling in Texas, kind of three eras. Then I want to talk about the scheduling software, what TxDOT's used, where the software has gone, because it's the major tool. And then I want to talk about the scheduler themselves, because we've struggled a lot to teach schedulers. So I just want to make a few points about that. So back in the 90s, we saw a change happen in construction, and it was when I first joined the department. I call it the delay claim era. We had a lot of folks who were negotiating, resolving issues with time extensions. Well, more and more contractors started using CPM scheduling. More and more started linking the time extensions to overhead compensation. So a lot of the folks that thought they were settling something with a time extension at the end of the project would get hit with a nice large request for overhead. So, and we got more and more delay claims. So TxDOT reacted to this. We learned CPM delay analysis techniques, specifically in the claims and disputes branch. We drafted the first CPM scheduling spec in about 1993. Many of you are involved in it. It was kind of just picking up, and then we conducted the first CPM training in 1995 to kind of give you. The next era that came along was the 2000s, and this was a pressure to complete projects faster. The legislatures, the public started going to the legislators and pushing for these projects. They were taking too long. So we started implementing acceleration strategies. This put even more pressure on the scheduling, and we started adding A+B bidding to contracts, incentives, no excuse bonuses, just the plethora of ways of trying to get these projects done faster. And our design group also started scrutinizing contract time determination schedules and making engineers sign and seal them to try to give them more emphasis. So the pressure on the schedule is growing and growing. Now in 2010, we have the design build era. This is the mega project era. This is the ultimate acceleration strategy, if you have it. It's really trying to get all the parts working together. Plus, TxDOT's shifted most of the delay risks to the developers. So less delay claims for TxDOT, and it's developers' job to get all the disciplines working together. So, and they're doing this through the schedule. So let me just illustrate that. In design build, such as the Grand Parkway project I'm on, the scheduler is the center of attention. They've got the right-of-way in there, utilities, design, construction, environmental. It's a cost-loaded schedule, so the payments are come off of the schedule. It's really a lot of pressure on the schedule, and it's really raised the bar in terms of what kind of scheduling folks have to do. And then there's the delay analysis. So where did the scheduling software go? Originally, when TxDOT chose Primavera, which we've been using ever since in the early 90s, excuse me, we only asked one question: what are the contractors using? We didn't want to impose on contractors something that they weren't using. So we went and did a survey, and we found 80% were using Primavera. So that's what we chose. And plus, TxDOT really couldn't have all different types of schedules coming in and different softwares. So that's why we chose Primavera. That's why we use it. Still true today. I don't think construction could separate themselves from Primavera if you had to. Other areas of the department probably could. Construction's really set in this area. So let's talk about the history of Primavera scheduling software. The company was established in 1983. They released their first version. It was in the DOS format. They then, in 90, bought Microtrack and released it as SureTrack. TxDOT really started purchasing P3 when it came out in the Windows version in 1994. And then in 2001, the last version of P3 was made, what Primavera had done is they had gone and bought Eagle Ray and released it as the first enterprise version, and they shifted their focus to a P6 enterprise format. And so P6 then was the focus, and we purchased P6 version 6.1 in construction, and I think it's the current tool we're using. It was issued in 2008, and version 2 came out, 6.2 came out then too. And that's what we're currently using. TxDOT's never upgraded while the software has continued to develop. And Oracle bought Primavera and quit selling P3 and SureTrack. And when Windows 7 came out, P3 wouldn't work anymore. So what we did was we eked out as much of P3 we could, getting in the early 90s, and then finally having to let it go in just a few years ago. Since our construction folks really didn't keep up with the software, didn't keep up the skills, we've really gone to consultants, and we've hired consultants. There are several of them in the room here. They do the bulk of our P6 work now. So we've had some P6 software challenges. There's a pretty steep learning curve. P6, besides P3, requires an IT specialist. So there's a lot more effort on the IT side that we have to have. And a lot of the contractors I know have even let someone else do that. A company called LoadSpring host it. For the Grand Parkway, the developer is using LoadSpring to host theirs. You really have to adapt to and understand that the software is designed for enterprises, kind of like contractors who are doing a lot of projects. They've got their entire equipment database resources loaded in it, and they pull from it for different projects. TxDOT struggles with it because we're getting schedules in from many different contractors, and so we then get all this mess together in our databases, and it's a little challenge to deal with. So it can be dealt with. It's just a little bit more challenge. Just a positive note about P6: it's very robust. It does a lot, and if you know how to use it, really can make it sing. File management is much better. Excel work with it is seamless. In and out. It's really easy. Cost loading is easy, especially for these big design build projects. Cost loading is really important. So just to talk about some of the resources, if you have a P6, really what you need is a schedule analysis software. It's kind of companion product. Originally there was Claim Digger. It was I think the first copy of Claim Digger I bought was $50. A guy named Terry Toole wrote it. You see a lot of people writing these kinds of comparison softwares. It comes with P6, but unfortunately in our copy it's not been activated. It was just the way the P6 the IT folks set it up. They have never been able to activate it. But it's not that big of a loss because it's not that great anymore. There's another software called Schedule Analyzer Enterprise. It's about $1,900. A guy named Ron Winter out of the East makes that software. I encourage you to go to Ron Winter's site. He has a lot of wonderful papers on P6, and if you need to do some self-study, that's a good place to start. I prefer Acumen Fuse myself. It's a little more expensive. It's very useful. It does comparisons between updates and schedules and exports them to an Excel file that then I can ship to project managers and everybody can see. So it's a really nice tool. The department has some licenses. If you're interested in getting access to it, you'll need to speak with the PMO office. XER Scheduler Toolkit. It's one I've just learned about. I don't know much about it. It's a lot less expensive. It comes out of a British company. And then there's another one called Project Analyzer, which is a company in Atlanta, Georgia that sells it. You can just Google that and it'll come up. It's about 3,000. They're mostly in the oil and gas industry, in defense industry. So, but they are trying to branch out into other industries. So they'll be happy to talk to you. We've written some construction scheduling guidelines. This is a really good tool for folks who are new in reviewing contractor schedules. It kind of steps you through everything you should be looking at and gives you a little more focus. And there's a lot of literature out there. If you just Google Primavera, here's a recent book that the construction division had that I read. It was a very nice, short read and very helpful in terms of instead of a big software manual. So there's a lot of software, a lot of information out there. So let me just talk about the scheduler a bit. Scheduling is a profession. When I was at TxDOT, the previous life there, TxDOT didn't recognize it as a profession. It still doesn't recognize it as a profession. But when you go into private sector, people are making a profession and they're paying them well. The group that I had, they were earning, I was paying $70,000 to $110,000, equivalent to engineer salaries. And a lot of them were engineers and are engineers. It's just, I think TxDOT needs to really change their perspective on schedulers and scheduling and make it a full-time job. It's recognized as it's certified by the Association for the Advancement of Cost Engineering. They have a planning and scheduling professional PSP certificate that they issue. I just highlight this one sentence because it's really critical. The scheduler is able to communicate effectively with all project stakeholders, both internally and externally. And that's on design build. That scheduler is in everybody's office. He's having to keep up with everything. He's kind of like, the conductor, really in everything. And I guess I've come across a lot of schedulers who are more technical P6 people, and they like to sit at their desk and work those buttons and things, and they don't communicate as effectively with the whole team. That really separates, to me, that separates out the really good schedulers from the folks that just learned the software. So here's that design build scheduler again. Has everybody focused on them. Just imagine if there wasn't a person like that to go to, you'd have to alter the communications, lines of communications in a different way. If this looks familiar, it's a lot like we do in TxDOT with a design build. It's we don't have that focused scheduler in the middle really running everything. You got everybody trying to right of way over here, communicating to construction. It's just there needs to be a scheduler in the middle of it. It needs to be a profession, and if you didn't know, that's kind of the theme of my point. We've been teaching, I taught a lot of training classes. Like Roxy said, district kind of asked for a host to host a class, a 2.5-day class. They select 20 people, they send them to the class. They're part-time. I think I've taught 45 of these classes. I counted all of them, 600 people, 2 instructors, 1,800 hours of instructor training time. I guarantee you, I don't think I got through but about 50. To me, it's just not the right way to go. We got to do something different. This is a P6 skill level assessment that we did a while back. Now, most of these are designers because the designers have had access to a large license pool, whereas construction hasn't. But what this shows you is that in advanced users and super users, we've only got about 50 of them out there in the state. Not enough, not near enough. And really what we've been doing is we've been working off this learning curve on the right. Very slow, very flat. We need to be on the left. We need to go straight up and get over that peak, and we need to get our schedulers trained and make it a profession. So how do you become a skilled scheduler and P6 user? You got to have to do a lot of self-study. You got to take it, you got to own it yourself. If there's anybody out there, any of the younger engineers, it's just important that you do a lot of self-study. You find a mentor. A lot of us, this scheduling community and the consultant world, There's a lot of really sharp guys out there, girls too, that really know it. And if you can kind of pair up, hook up, let them mentor you, it's really important. Study what you're scheduling. A schedule's not going to make any sense to you if you don't know what you're scheduling. You got to know construction. You got to know traffic control phasing. You got to know how a bridge goes up, how walls go up. You got to know how designs are done. You need to know how the eminent domain right-of-way process takes place. You got to understand how utility companies work. You got to understand what you're scheduling, and I can't make that a point enough. Take P6 software training. There's a lot of just the strict software training out there that people give classes on. So you pair that with the TxDOT's construction, P6 construction training, and it really gets you off to a good start. And then do a lot more self-study. Once you get past those two levels of training, you do some more self-study. Collaborate with others. I learn all the time. Just today, I just learned something new that I didn't know about P6. P6 user group, great idea. I think Acumen Fuse is getting a Fuse user group together. Going to attend on that. But the more we can collaborate and help each other along, the faster we'll get up that learning curve. And practice. I cannot tell you how many schedules I've studied. Thousands. It's so important to get your hands on every one of them. Look at them, study them. So just to wrap up, I don't see any flag waving at me. While I called it the delay era, it's still with us. It's still one of the toughest parts of construction administration. Resolving delay, resolving time extensions, addressing the money. It's a very big challenge. Nothing has changed. The acceleration era is still with us. Still a lot of pressure to get these projects done fast. We're still using all of those tools we can, incentives, disincentives, no excuse bonuses. We're still there. And the design build era is really raising the bar for us. Those guys are really doing some top-notch scheduling work. And let's try something different. Let's recognize scheduling as a profession. Let's train fewer people better. Let's train full-time schedulers, not a bunch of part-time, because it just doesn't work. Let's hire full-time schedulers and let's pay them well. I don't know if we can do that, but I think unless you get those salaries up equivalent to engineers, you're probably not going to succeed. And stay up to date with the P6 software. We're behind. We just need to keep up. So a final thought. I finished up a book recently. It was a really good book. So this is a book recommendation. The Wright brothers. David McCullough wrote it. Orville and Wilbur didn't just invent the airplane. They learned how to fly it. That's what they really invented, was flying. And just learning the scheduler software is not enough. You really have to learn how to schedule. There's more to it. So.